Well, it started off as a lot of fun here in Austin. Did not end up that way for Texas A&M as the Aggies fall to the Longhorns 70-69. Welcome into the All in Aggies YouTube channel. I'm Peck. Just want to first off acknowledge if you've been following the channel for a while, I understand I've been gone for a little bit. I've got some big news to share tomorrow, Sunday, so keep an eye out for that. That will sort of explain what's been going on with me and my plans for the future of this channel. But getting back to this game, 70-69, the Aggies cruising. It looked like they couldn't do anything wrong. Up 18 at the half. We're going to go through it, break it down. By the way, I want to come back Sunday and listen through, again, some of what the coaches and players had to say afterwards, some of the players for Texas and Buzz Williams, Rodney Terry, and give kind of a more detailed breakdown with their input. Go through it and kind of set some of that up. So be on the lookout for that. But just quick reaction as I've wrapped up my my duties here and with my other job and kind of had about an hour, a couple hours to ruminate on this. You know, it was a weird deal where A&M is not a three-point shooting team. They're a team that gets to the free throw line. They were doing the inverse of that getting into this game. In 3, 2, 1. Well, it started off as a lot of fun for Texas A&M, but did not end up that way as the Aggies fall to the Longhorns 70-69 here at the Moody Center Saturday. Welcome into the All in Aggies YouTube channel. I'm Peck. If you've been following the channel, by the way, I just want to acknowledge I know I've been away for a little bit. I've got some big news that I'm going to share with you guys first coming up on Sunday, so that will sort of explain where I've been for a little bit and my plans moving forward as well. But let's get back to this game, the matter at hand. Devastating, given who it was to. I think, you know, these kind of games happen in college basketball, but given the fact that, you know, let's be honest, your rival's down a little bit. You beat them by 20 when you weren't making any threes, and now first half you're making better than 50%. Let's see, first half from three, A&M 53%, 8 for 15. You think, oh my goodness, they might blow them out of their own gym. Big morale victory. This season in general has sort of felt like a chance for A&M to, hopefully, for the Aggies' sake, separate themselves a bit. But then, you know, to see how it all unfolded, I think that's what makes it better. If this would have been, you know, a game, let's say this was like the Ole Miss game, and I'll touch on that, or the Oklahoma game where one of those teams comes back and knocks you off. Upsetting, devastating in a sense, but I think the fact that it was to Texas, everything on the line, what it means to the fan base, I think that's what makes it sting a little bit more. But these games do happen in college basketball. In fact, speaking of that Ole Miss game, that's what I was going to go to. Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Two games where the Aggies, in some ways, didn't feel like they had any business winning. Certainly winning, maybe being competitive in, but they did that on the road. So what comes around goes around. The Aggies, it was their turn to be maybe a little unlucky here today. And you know, obviously, it doesn't excuse it, but just sort of context that this is a crazy sport, and you can't ever get too comfortable. Just when you think you're cruising, you're chilling, that's when they'll come back to bite you. Just early takeaways, again, I've had just a couple hours to let this digest, doing my other job and, you know, getting through those duties and just letting it soak in a little bit. A&M, you know, that first half was weird. We touched on it, 8 for 15 from three. They weren't getting to the free throw line, though. So in some ways, this was I had mixed feelings on it. It was, I mean, you're up 18, so you can't complain too much. As far as the free throws, though, and the style of play, you think, okay, is this sustainable? Probably not, but you're up 18, and it really shouldn't matter. Like, at that point, you just play a fairly average game the rest of the way, you're good to go. It's just one of those, like, if you were playing a team, if you were Texas, for example, and you were playing somebody and they started doing that, you just say, you know what, it was their night, nothing you could do about it. A&M, you're like, okay, not necessarily maybe the blueprint moving forward, but they just can't miss. You know, it almost was like they had a game against South Carolina, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe last year, where they just went in and just dominated from the start, went crazy, and walked out with a huge victory. Felt like it was going to be one of those nights. Like, you're not ever really going to see that type of three-point shooting on a consistent basis, but celebrate it while you can, take advantage of it while you can. And the Aggies did that for a while, but then the comeback starts. Obviously, Trey Johnson, huge factor, 30 points, game high. I'm not sure if that's a career high for him, but he was huge. I want to touch on the technical fouls for a moment. You know, Henry Coleman, I I actually got it. I don't mind saying it. I mean, I heard it. I'll tell you what I heard. He got the blocked ball out of bounds. Like, there was some language to the official. What the heck? And then, call that. And then that's when the ref called the technical foul on him. Not even after the what the heck, and he didn't say heck. It was the other one. So that was that. Understandable. You're up big at that point. I still don't love it. I don't think Henry Coleman was trying to get teed up or didn't care, but it, felt comfortable enough that, oh, well, you don't want to do that, but obviously came back to bite him. But really what it was not just these free throws, but how they compounded them. Like, obviously the big one that everyone's going to talk about is the 6 minute on the court. From my perspective, I was sitting baseline on the other side, and they were coming this way. I couldn't gather it because most of the players were over on this side, and I was kind of tucked away. I wasn't in a position to really clearly see the whole process of it. Did A&M have enough time to make the switch and communicate the switch and put the ball in play? Rodney Terry did say that they like to play fast and get the ball in bounds, and I think they were forcing the issue on the referees, which sort of probably contributed to that. I know Buzz Williams was very, curt. I think that's the word you can use. Very short with his answer and explanation for what he was told about how that played out. I think that be the case A&M would make, is that, we want to sub in guys, we want to make switches, and they do allow pretty late switches, obviously, all the time, and they'll hold up the game just to make sure everyone's set, we're good. I don't know if A&M maybe had the time to do that, and if that was the discrepancy, the beef that the Aggies had. That would be my guess, but I think Texas just forced the issue. You're in Austin, and that happens. Obviously, once you make the ball in play, the referees can't really do anything about it. I mean, that is the call you have to make. That is the rule. The beef would be, did they allow them the time? I think I saw Buzz Williams having an animated conversation with I did see the animated conversation. I'm pretty sure he was having an animated conversation with the official, the sideline official, the scorekeeper, the whatever you want to call it, that assistant official who sort of helps regulate that sort of stuff. So I think that was it. But, it was also, they make their free throws, and I think they made both of them on the technical against Henry Coleman. So that's 4 points. You take advantage, and then you hit the 3, 5-point play in, less than a minute. And that also points to something that has been a bugaboo of this team. Comes back to bite them once again. 3 for 8 from the free throw line. One of them, I'm not sure about all of them, but I know one of them was a front end of a 1-and-1 from Pharrell Payne. So that, in my mind, is almost like you go 0 for 2 from the line on one shot because you don't get the chance for the bonus. So it was almost worse than 3 for 8 if you catch what I'm saying there. And still, in some ways, they played their game. 18 offensive rebounds to 6. Turned the ball over a little too much. 11 turnovers to 8. But really, they didn't have a way really to shut down Trey Johnson. He was making shots. He, 5 for 7 from 3. That's insane. I'm sorry, that's Wade Taylor. Wade Taylor 5 for 7 from 3. 4 for 10 for 3 for Trey Johnson. 6 for 18 from the field. I mean, wasn't shooting great, but when he was behind that line and getting an extra point for it. So that killed him. Tremont Mark had a 4-point play. That was a big moment. There were just several times in the second half where I think notably Wade Taylor had the step-back 3, make it 59-50 with about 18 to go. Immediate timeout for Buzz Williams. I loved that timeout at the time because you could feel this place. They just got it down to 6. You could feel this place waiting to get amped up. I mean, I don't know if you saw, I tweeted out a video. They're playing Mo Bamba in here when Texas had come back a little bit. I'd say this about 12-minute mark. And it was just totally dead during the break. I mean, there was not really any energy to speak of. There was sort of, they were engaged to a point because obviously it's rivalry and you never know, and Texas was playing better. But they were so far down that, you still look up and you've emptied so much out of the tank, and you look up and you're still, if you're Texas, you're still down 11, 10, 9. And then you finally start getting it down to 8, 7, 6. And A&M just always had an answer for about a 5-minute stretch there from like the 8-minute mark to the 3-minute mark where they would get it down to 6. Wade Taylor pushes up to 9. Call a timeout. Like, hey, settle down. Get back on track. Let's just, erase the last few minutes. Just say, hey, if you drop this in a game up by 9 in Austin with 8 minutes to go, we should be able to close out the game, especially with how much we were dominating at one point early on. And you just kept giving them opportunities to chip and claw away. That's what also was so big about the technical with the bench penalty, is that made it, I believe that made it like an 8-point game after the 3-pointer made, instead of an 11, or like math, instead of a 10-point game. But you catch what I'm saying. They had chances to keep this crowd, this atmosphere, this team at bay. They let them continue to chip away. I'm not sure how many points they ended up scoring in the second half, Texas did, but they 43-26. Yeah, so 26 points is not great offensively, but it's not terrible. But 43, you just weren't playing good enough defensively. They weren't getting to the line. That was another thing that, if there was maybe a red flag that should have been not the alarm bell, but something to give you a little bit of pause, it was, hey, they're doing this in a way that the data would suggest is unsustainable. And Rodney Terry touched on that as well, that they were kind of okay living with some of the threes and some of the guys making those threes that they did, knowing that or thinking that over the course of time you would not be hurt from it. Now, in this game, it still helped A&M. They still ended up shooting pretty well from 3. And Wade Taylor got hot too. That's something that, he's obviously such a big X factor. If and when he has one of those nights where he's locked in, he was locked in today, then you say A&M's going to be really tough to beat. And they were still difficult. But quite frankly, this is not a Texas team that has been able to hang around. They've been able to hang around some good teams, but they've not taken care of their business, let's just say. And I thought it was really telling for you to beat them by 20 points with a less than ideal effort last time, and then you kind of fix the one thing that was wrong with it last time, and you can't play defense, you can't get a stop. The defensive rebounded okay, I thought. I didn't think that was an issue. I thought driving to the paint, they couldn't get. They had a moment. They had a stretch where Pharrell Payne got involved, and they had some interior game, but they kind of went away from that. They also went away from Manny Obaseki completely in the second half. I'm not really sure what the situation was there. He was asked about it, Buzz Williams, in the postgame, and totally dodged the question. 13 points from Manny Obaseki. Looked like he was really turning a corner, and then, he comes out. I don't know if that was a defensive adjustment, and they were scoring on him, and they were like, hey, we're going to put in the lineup that's going to slow them down. But I think also Texas started feeling like they were playing loose, and they weren't pressing as much. I thought that was credit to them. I thought that was sort of a very big factor for them in terms of turning things around and being able to just put themselves in a position where anything can happen, and it does. Tremont Mark makes the game winner right here. Wade Taylor, decent look from what I could tell for the winner. I think it went off rim there, so tough one. But again, it is college basketball. I would urge you to remind yourself, especially if you're an Aggie baseball fan or softball fan, just the same mindset and the same understanding that, like, those sports, you're going to lose some games. And I know basketball, the best of the best maybe run through the table and are capable of losing just a handful of games all year. Whereas baseball and softball, it is what it is. My point with all this is to say it happens. It's not football. I think sometimes we're such big college football fans, we take our college football mind and put it onto different sports of, like, yes, was today unacceptable? The finish, the second half? Absolutely. But it does happen in college basketball. It happens in baseball, in softball. You're not going to win. Usually, you're not going to win every game. Maybe the best of the best win 90%. But even the really, really, really good teams will lose one here and there. This team has still shown a lot of resiliency. I will say this was the first loss at full strength for the Aggies. That's notable. And it's not going to be easy down the stretch of the second half. But, winnable game against Oklahoma. I'll see if the Aggies can rebound with that. If Wade Taylor gets going again, if Manny Obaseki is still effective offensively, that will bode well. Zurich Phelps, I don't think he did as much tonight. That's probably someone that you'd like to see get going again. Yeah, I mean, 7 points, 7 for 10, 3 for 10 from the field, 7 points. He didn't do too much. Pharrell Payne, 3 for 10. They got the ball to him, but again, they were playing really well on the interior. Texas was to try to shut that down and to ultimately come back. 22 points, ties the biggest comeback in Texas program history to get the win over the Aggies. By the way, I know it's late in the video, but apologies if the microphone, we've been having a little trouble with it. It's been a little, you'll hear like interjections of the mic. Sounds like it's moving around. Not sure what that issue is, but if that's been coming through, I apologize. That's going to do it. All in Aggies. Ben Peck here in Austin. Disappointing day, disappointing end to the series. The Aggies still win the series on aggregate, if you will. A 1-point win for Texas, a 20-point win for A&M. But that is going to do it here for the Lone Star Showdown in 2025, at least regular season. So we'll see if these teams meet up again, potentially at the SEC tournament. I would still like the Aggies' chances there, but need to figure out what went wrong in that second half and get that corrected moving forward. Like the channel, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please help us out. Going to try to do a lot more here in the coming weeks. And again, big news, big announcement coming up tomorrow, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Here in Austin, on the All in Aggies YouTube channel, I'm Ben Peck.